Hey trainers, welcome back! You're with PewterCityJim, and today we're adding another set of entries to our Solah Pokédex. For those of you who are new, welcome! Solah is this channel's ongoing project to create a Pokédex filled with Fakemon inhabiting a region based on Southern California and some of the surrounding areas. It's a pretty diverse place with forests, deserts, mountains, cities, and suburbs to name a few biomes. So far we have over 60 species of Fakemon, from cute little birds to haunted warehouse equipment, and there's plenty more to add. On this channel we also do a lot of Let's Play stuff ranging from official games to fan-made adventures. Besides that, there's plenty of art to be found. If any of this sounds like fun to you, I encourage you to use an Ultra Ball on the subscribe button. If you tap A repeatedly while the ball rocks, it increases your chance of hitting the bell and getting notified of new uploads. Why not use an ether on the like button for this video so it doesn't run out of PP? And of course, let's use explosions down in the comments so everyone can hear what you have to say loud and clear. In this video, we're going to add something that would fill the role of, say, the Ralts line or Hatena line. Many generations have something like this. They tend to be pretty feminine looking, even if they aren't always all female, and are generally good special attackers and have a typing that involves Psychic or Fairy. Ours won't. It's gonna break the mold in that regard. It's the ace of the Amethyst and Gym Leader. That's the second badge in the Minor League Challenge, and it's based on mermaids. And yes, I know, Mermaid was 2 months ago, but when I started sketching things for this video, it was still May, and this was still relevant, but these videos take a little while to make, so nothing will ever be on time, and I'm sorry. So, here's the thing. Amethyston is actually based on Solvang. This is a town that takes a lot of pride in its Danish heritage. From the food to the architecture, a lot of the place has a decidedly Danish feel to it. One thing it has is the Hans Christian Andersen Museum, a tribute to his many literary works. There's also a statue outside of the Little Mermaid. Yeah, the same one the Disney films are based on, but the actual story is a little darker than the one you might be used to, and if your only exposure to the tale is these movies, well, let's go ahead and look at the actual story. Once upon a time, there was a little mermaid. She was the youngest of 5 sisters, and her father, the Sea King, is a widower. But his mother, the Dowager Queen, is around, so that's nice. Upon reaching 15, each of the 5 girls is allowed to swim up to the surface to experience a little of what life is up there. Being the youngest, the little mermaid listens to the tales her sisters tell of their trips to the surface with awe. She can't wait for it to be her turn. When the day finally arrives, she sees a birthday party being held for a very handsome prince on a boat! Immediately she is in love, but suddenly a violent storm hits, sinking the ship. The Little Mermaid manages to save the handsome prince. Yay! But a young lady from the temple finds him on the beach and takes credit for the rescue. Boo! The Little Mermaid asks her grandmother if humans live a long life, as mermaids can live for up to 300 years. Her grandmother tells her that this is impossible. Humans live short lives, but get to go to heaven and death with their immortal souls. Mermaids don't. They have no soul and just wind up as sea foam. Which seems entirely unfair, but I'm no marine biologist, so what would I know? The Little Mermaid, melancholy and moody, decides to hit up the Sea Witch and see if there's a way for her to become human so that she might woo her love, who she met one time while he was unconscious. Because this isn't a reasonable person that we're dealing with here. I just need to make that very, very clear. This fish girl isn't in her right mind. Just so, you know, we're on the same page. Book pun. Anyway. Sea Witch says sure, but there are some caveats. You know this part. She doesn't get to keep her voice. She has to make him fall in love with her, and then she'll be a real human for realsies. But the part that Disney cut out of the movies is that every step on her little human footsie is like a knife stabbing her in the sole of the foot. So she meets up with the prince again and entrances him with her dancing, but every single move she makes is Shteimberg. And then he marries the girl from the temple who quote-unquote rescued him. Turns out she was a princess this whole time, which is why not. The Little Mermaid sisters show up and tell her that the Sea Witch has sent a special knife up with them. If she can kill the prince with it before dawn, she'll change back into a mermaid and get to live out the rest of her 300-year life just like she was able to before. If the dawn breaks and the prince lives, she will just dissolve into sea foam and cease to exist. Quite the choice! Still, this pure summer child just can't bring herself to do a cold-blooded murder. She's unreasonable, but not that unreasonable. She chucks herself off the boat just as the sun rises, and she turns into foamy glue. Plot twist! Her selflessness and sacrifice have garnered her some kind of holy favor, and she's been transformed into a spirit of the air. If she can do good deeds for humans for the next 300 years, she will have earned her own immortal soul and will get to ascend into heaven. Well, the story was written in 1837, and I'm writing this version in 2023, which means she's been at the good deed game for the past 186 years, give or take. A little over halfway there. Closer to 2/3, actually. Keep up the good work, Little Mermaid, who was never actually named in the original book. The end. So that's a more accurate, if seriously abridged version of the story that Hans Christian Andersen wrote. I actually left out a few gruesome details myself, so if you want, go read the book to find out about that. Link to a PDF in the description. I think this is a pretty great inspiration for a Pokemon, honestly. Let's take a trip to the beach and get some design work done. Solvang is in Santa Barbara County. Santa Barbara is known for its beautiful beaches, so the mermaid inspiration is perfect. Also, completely unrelated, the show Psych is based in Santa Barbara, which, I don't know, it's one of my favorite shows, so, oh hey, Sean isn't psychic but pretends to be, so maybe that's why this Mon isn't a psychic type. Having said that, I don't have any psychic types yet in the decks. Oh, never mind. So, aquatic life is really diverse, and I didn't want to just make a girly-looking Pokemon with a fishtail. Too easy, too generic. So I went to the aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach to, well, mostly to eat a pizza and chili dogs, but also to collect inspiration. I was wondering about making it based on a sea mammal. That makes some sense, as the top half of a mermaid is mammalian, so why wouldn't the bottom half be? But do I want this line to make that kind of sense? Remember, Ariel is a little unreasonable. Why not aim for something a little more, out there? Sea slugs! There are so many amazing ones! Let's get mollusky. The concept I settled on is a young Pokemon coming out of its shell, the literal shell. I almost wanted to go for a cloister or clamperl shell just to tie it back to classic and modern art, sirens sitting in those or languishing in them like a comfy couch. But in the end, I decided to tie it back to some more Pokemon-specific lore. This little critter emerges from the same type of shelter shell that attaches to a slowpoke tail to make Slowbro. There are a few sea creatures that lay their eggs in old shells, and I figured this Pokemon might be inclined in the same way. Lay the egg in the abandoned shell, and it can hatch from there, using it as protection up until the point where it's ready to explode out into glorious song. The colors I picked are pinks and blues, just a very pretty color combo to me. The pose is something like that of an opera singer, just giving it their all and singing at the top of their lungs. Gills, I guess. I shaped the hair like a stereotypical heart shape because it's cute. I honestly don't have much more to say about that. It clings to the inside of the shell with a long, sticky mollusk tail. And here we have Bubble, the mermaid Pokemon. Bubble are hatched in the discarded shells of Shelter, usually dropped by a slowpoke. They remain sealed inside until they feel strong enough to face the outside world. Once they emerge, they have an insatiable curiosity. Here are your stats and moves. You can see it gains a lot of sound-based moves, including some very strong ones early on. It also has some shell-based protective moves, water-type moves. Stats aren't great, but there's a lot of moves that could make the short fallen-based stats a little less relevant. Bubble? Bubble and Bell, as in beautiful. Cute little portmanteau-style name. Now, this stage of our Fakemon's life is a vibrant and exploratory one. But what happens when it evolves? This design is a departure from the first in both energy and color. The form represents the part of the story where the Little Mermaid has lost her voice and is realizing that her happily ever after just isn't around the corner. Because this is a Pokemon, it's not like I'm gonna give her painful legs or anything. She just looks kinda down in the dumps. Her tail, no longer inside the shell she was using, well, it's reminiscent of sea foam. That's what mermaids become when they die, according to the story. Heavy stuff. Oh, and the hair goes from being pink love hearts to being blue teardrops. Heavy-handed? Sure, but I do love the idea that a love heart is just two teardrop shapes smushed together. have Fomel, the Mermaid Pokemon. Babel undergo an unfortunate metamorphosis upon evolving into Fomel. They can no longer use their voice, and movement becomes more difficult for them as their sticky, foamy tail grabs onto surfaces and objects, limiting mobility. Here are your stats and moves. As you can see, the stats have raised in some places, but have decreased in others. Much like Trapinch to Vibrava losing a chunk of its attack stat, Fomel has its speed halved. Getting around, even underwater for this Pokemon, is a chore. Also, you'll notice that those learned moves, there's a big red X over some of them, indicating that in this form, they are unusable. That's right, we'll cover it a little more under the abilities section, but Sing, Uproar, all of those moves are disabled. Fomel is foam, as in sea foam, and L for beautiful. Look, it's not ideal. Let's just get on to the last stage, shall we? This Fakemon represents the last part of the story, where the Little Mermaid becomes an air spirit. It regains its voice, it regains its vitality, it regains a bright color palette, though there are some flecks of that seafoam green in there. It can't entirely leave behind what it once was, but it is doing its best to move on. The hair and tail have become this ethereal, flowing, transparent stuff, and its voice is raised in song once more. Here we have Angel, the Mermaid Pokemon. Angel have evolved beyond their sadness to become truly triumphant. They soar the skies above Solah seas, helping prevent shipwrecks and finding those lost out on the ocean. While many legends say siren songs lead to ruin, this Pokemon's songs lead those lost back to shore. Here are your stats and moves. Stats have been kind of normalized with a significant speed boost, and those locked moves have been re-added into the roster. No new moves, as this is a stone evolution, but we'll get to that. The name Angel refers to the idea that the Little Mermaid will gain her immortal soul upon completing her 300 years of community service, doing good deeds. Angels often have wings, which speaks to an ability to fly, so combining that idea with the idea of an air spirit makes sense to me. In terms of abilities, we have some new ones to discuss. Babel and Angel have Harmony. This takes sound-based moves and makes them the same as the Pokemon's primary type. This takes moves that would normally mostly be normal type and makes them water type with a stab bonus and a super effective damage on ground, fire, and rock types. In the case of Angel, that would make all of their sound-based moves flying type. For Fomel, the ability is just called Silent. This gives all sound-based moves the disabled status, as if the move disabled had been used on them. It's a pretty awful ability, honestly, and only serves to make this Pokemon's ascension to its final form worth the grind. Angel is pretty powerful, so this is kind of the trade-off in having a hard-to-use middle form. The item that you use is the Dawnstone. Seems pretty fitting, honestly. Maybe a little on the nose, actually. Anyway, here are your shinies, and this would be the egg. It's colored like a Shelter shell. You would find these Pokemon in one spot and one spot only. They coast around the 4th town, Sandy Shore City. There would be tide pool areas where you could use the Minimon net to snag them. You'd also see seashells on the beach, and you could check them to see if maybe one of them contained Babel. This would be after you'd seen it used in Gym number 2 in Amethyst then. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me this month, trainers. It's very much appreciated. Next time we're going to see another regional variant and how I've combined that with one of my non-Pokemon passions. I'm looking forward to catching you in the next one. But till then, take care. Bye!